It's KBKW's Coffee Talk at 7:13. Stephen Arms is with us today as historian, and also, of course, you've got your YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel is Arena of History. You go on YouTube and do a search for Arena of History, and you'll find my channel.
And you also write articles.
I write articles for the Senior Sunset Times locally, and which is a good paper. I just put one out. I thought that was interesting. Well, we'll see if it's interesting. I don't want to give too much on it, but a little about it. And I wrote it. For the people listening, they can't see it, but I brought in the prop that it was a Morgan silver dollar. And I looked at the silver dollar, and I thought about what our currency says a lot about what we are as a country. And that the interesting thing about the United States of America is most nations, almost all nations, have been based on race and ethnic groups or on religion, where the United States of America was based on ideas. And the ideas are on the coin. I mean, liberty, e pluribus unum, which is, of course, Latin for out of many, one. And on the back it says, in God we trust. And all those concepts are all part of how this country was formed. And so I did a whole piece on it. And when I got thinking about it, I mean, liberty is a fascinating idea in general. I mean, we're one of the few countries that puts the highest value in that governments do not have the right that we have the right to freedom of speech and freedom expressive. We have right to have a government who doesn't intrude on our lives. And I'm not so sure we do that in the 21st century as much as the original ideas, but it is the idea that we all have personal liberty. And the best thing the government can do is get out of our way and let us just pursue our happiness.
Yeah, but that works to a degree, And I guess in modern times, but don't you have to kind of find from the time that we going back to the early 1900s or 1800s or even into the 1700s when the country came to exist. Things that happen and things that you do in the future when it comes to technology like communication, travel, the ability to fly, all of these things are changing the way we look at the world, and also the way we maybe look at what do you consider freedom? What do you consider when you don't have freedom? Nowadays you have to be careful about things you could have said 30 or 40 years ago, you don't dare say now. So
there's always a changing mode, and that has to do with the idea of what is acceptable in a society. But a lot of that, I think, in modern times is being dictated by it's a tyranny of a small group of people. Though I think that a lot of times. Freedom of speech should be freedom of speech. There's only a half a dozen things that people have to be, you cannot incite violence directly. You cannot instigate and conspire in crimes doing with your speech.
But with social media, that's
the point about it.
Yeah.
But social media is one of I don't want to sound like an old fogey here, but social media, I'm not sure is a benefit to our society because it gives the mob mentality. And what people used to call the lynch mob mentality. I mean, when I look at social media, somebody makes one statement, or somebody digs up something someone said 10 years ago, and all of a sudden their lives are being ruined over one stupid statement.
Yeah, and that would not have happened 20 or 30 or 40 years ago.
No, by no means.
Yeah. Well, let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Just slowly with the YouTube channel, please. Can I get that YouTube channel? I would like to hear what you have to say on your YouTube channel.
I'm sorry. It's you go to YouTube and you look up Arena, like ARENA, of History, and if you do that as a search, you'll find my channel.
Arena what again? Arena History.
Arena of History.
Of History. Okay.
Yeah, all three of those, and you'll always find it.
So are you like a modern Alan Watts, or I'm just curious? But anyway, okay, I'll just let you go back to your thing, and I'll check it out. Thanks.
Thank you much.
Arena of History. Okay, bye.
Bye. We should take a break right now because we're almost at break time, and then that'll kind of smooth the way to the bottom of the hour. It is now 7:17. We'll be back with a look at our weather forecast. Hey, it's KBKW's Coffee Talk. We have a high wind watch, which most likely will turn into a high wind warning before it's over, where we're going to get some heavy-duty winds, 60-mile-an-hour gusts. Those winds will start ramping up tonight. And then the official time of the arrival of the storm is about 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. And that'll blow through most of the day tomorrow. And then by the time we get to Friday, believe it or not, we're going to clear out for a little bit, have partly sunny skies. And then Saturday, we had a chance of rain. Same for Sunday, Monday as well. But then Christmas Day, we could see partly sunny skies. But prepare for another big blow coming our way. But mild temperatures. How did you survive the wind so far?
Our house was built in 1900, and it has that tongue and groove wood in the frame underneath. I mean, it makes noise when the wind hits. When we had the big windstorm with the 80-plus-an-hour winds for several days, I could, feel the house. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I mean, I lost the only thing I lost was the roof off of the patio area in the back. And my fence post bent a little, but yeah, I don't worry about it too much. But it's good to know 60 mile an hour. That'll mean, people should be careful on the road. Because I've been driving, I used to drive professionally, and when you get a sideways hit from a powerful wind like that, it'll make you change lanes. And if you better make sure nobody's over there when you change lanes, you end up with a pileup. So it is good to warn people.
Did you drive like a big semi, or what?
Oh no, I used to drive ambulance.
Oh, okay.
But if you drive, ambulance,
they're top heavy a little bit,
and all that. So you can easily get them, hit. But even smaller cars, people get caught by it, and
So you were an EMT then at one point?
I was an EMT for several years, and I used to be an EMS dispatcher also. So I handled both of those.
Well, let's go to our listener line and say hi, you're on the air.
Yes. I'm calling about an incident that happened to me last night.
Okay.
All right.
I was on Simpson and I was heading over to the mall. And it was dark. I was about 5:30. Or not quite even 5:30, and there was a car beside me, and it was a little bit further, and I could see that it was slowing down. I don't know why. I was focused straight on, but I could see it slowing down, and something made me kind of slow down. And when I slowed down, there was also a car behind me, but from the driver's side, here is this guy walking across the street. And when he gets in front of my car, luckily I was able to stop. He looked me right in the eye. And I was thinking about that as I was driving on, that, wow, what happened and everything. And then I realized I was mad because it was almost like he was using it as some kind of a power play with his life and me and any of the people in the cars. And I'm just thinking, this has happened to me before, and I'm wondering, what rights do I have to be in a situation like that and go through what to do? Because they could walk on and they just go in, and that's happened. I'm sure with other people, it comes close with some of the people that are either the homeless or they're on something.
It's kind of an unusual circumstance. Of course, Aberdeen has a lot of people sometimes that are substance altered individuals, and I've had my run-ins with those too. If you have, as far as I understand it, if you have parallel crosswalks, it is considered, parallel sidewalks is considered a crosswalk. So the people crossing there would have the right of way. So I mean, you are supposed to stop for them, but if on the other hand, it's only what a reasonable driver would do under reasonable circumstances. If if a person dumps in front of your car, then you're not going to be held accountable for someone else's actions. If a reasonable person could avoid them, I mean, there's always the protection. Again, back from my ambulance days, what a reasonable person would do in the same circumstances. And that, and again, today, if I have to help somebody medically, that's what would protect me also. With my level of skill, what would a reasonable person do? And so in a driving's the same situation. So I think that would, just be careful.
Now, was this person seemed to be kind of like having some sort of enjoyment out of clogging the traffic up like that when he looked at you?
Walking along kind of nonchalantly.
There you go.
almost oblivious, which when you're talking about the change in our culture and everything, because there would be a point in time when it's, I want to save my life, I want to protect my life, oh my gosh, I got into this, instead of having almost kind of an attitude, kind of, I dare you to hit me.
I'd agree with you on that. There is a level in our society now that people have lost, they get lost, and again, for moral reasons. I mean, I think they don't really understand what to do with their life, and therefore they get meanness. It's why the mob mentality of social media is such a thing that people try to get gratification from. They don't seem to want to invest in their churches, their culture, their cities. The individual, the narcissism of modern times. People are so into themselves. I mean, for gosh sakes. I mean, people show you I don't want to see what somebody had for breakfast on their Facebook page. Who cares? I mean, there's a vanity amongst people that they think they're so important, yet it's based on insecurity.
And I think also, and I've noticed this before, a lot of these people, they don't have anything else. They don't have any money. They don't have a place to live and stuff like that. So the only sense of power they get is by walking out in front of you when they shouldn't be there, and you have to slow down. It's like a sense of power, like, hey, look at me. Oh. But that's all they have to brag on, is I walk in front of people and they have to stop.
That's exactly what I was going to say next, Doug.
Oh, okay.
Exactly, because there was a sense, because that was that eye-to-eye contact. We give messages back and forth to each other, and instead of me thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't hit him," to the point where I was mad.
Yeah.
Because he had some power and control, and that's what made him feel power. He doesn't have any self-worth in order to do something like that with his life.
Yeah.
Which is probably the point on it. That type of individual should probably be pitied, because their life is of so little value in their own mind that the only way they can get power is by being a delinquent, basically.
And so then I also have to look at the other side, is all of the people in the cars that were beside me that were driving, all of the people that were behind me. You have the domino effect happening, that one person can have that control over who knows how many people when they're in the street like that.
Yep, they're just kind of showing off with the only thing they have left to show off with.
There's an old saying that if you want to, most people can handle misfortune and failure, but if you really want to test an individual, you give them power. And power is one of those things that's why we always have to be careful in dealing with anything powerful in our country, our government, who we elect. Powerful individuals, the worst corruption is power. And people are more likely to abuse it than anything else. And if your life is fairly meaningless, you have to seize what power you can.
Wow, that sounds like a sickness somewhere to me.
It is.
So it's interesting. I was thinking about this all night and everything and trying to think about it, and then you come with it on the air. How apropos. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You bet. Bye-bye. All right, let's go to our next caller. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Morning.
So do you think we could take that story and kind of extrapolate it out to Antifa in Portland?
There is a certain amount of that. Again, where it's the intolerance of a few individuals that, I mean, whose lives are probably actually fairly insignificant. I mean, Antifa is, I don't see any difference from Antifa and the Klan. It's just, though there's more Antifa these days than obviously Klan, the Klan is pretty much virtually extinct in this country. But you have these people in their little black masks and their ninja suits running around acting like, only having power. And then the daring people, because, again, most people have too much.
Those people need to get drafted.
That would solve a lot of the problem.
God, yes.
Or they,
a drill sergeant get a hold of them.
Just generally dealing with people who are too good-natured to actually do anything about it. I mean, they're depending on the fact, like the lady that just called in, that if the person, again, I'm in my life, I was thinking back when I was a kid, if I walked out in front of a car and got hit, everyone would be sad, but they're going, "Kid, why did you get yourself hit? You're the one that would have gotten hit, not that how dare the car hit you? Let's sue the universe because there's some massive, horrible thing based on some bizarre social idea of justice. I mean, social justice, what a joke as a pair of words. Justice does not need social to be justice.
Well, I've found as I went through life, and the virtue signaling, as soon as the word somebody is uttered, you have admitted that you're a nobody. When I hear anybody go, somebody needs to do something, what you just said, if I was a somebody, I would do something.
Well, then, they've made themselves a nobody, exactly. Well,
interesting. Never thought of that. Well, thanks for the call, John. We're out of time.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's 7:29, and we'll... It's KBKW's Coffee Talk at 7:37, and we were just talking off mic here about the Trump situation with his charity organization, but then you look at the Clinton organization, and there was a lot of stuff going on there that might not be considered legal.
Well, or
ethical.
Well, and ethical for sure, but I mean legal is a matter of. I always look at it and go, are they in jail? Did the IRS come after them? And again, some of these people, you and I wouldn't be protected from the IRS, but people who have government
I've
connections.
been audited by the IRS.
Well, I know, and you've survived it, which means you basically have lived a.
Oh, they came to my house, and I was living in Mount Vernon, and they came to my house. This lady came to the house. It was in the morning, and at that particular time, I was working afternoons for a period of time. So anyway, a knock on the door. Here's this lady, and she's got a guy standing next to her, and he just gently kind of opens his coat, and he's got a firearm. So I'm thinking, I thought that it was like a detective or something, and it was the IRS. And I had paid back taxes. Went to an accountant, paid back taxes, got everything caught up, but there was one portion that we decided I'd make payments on. And so then they sat us down. I still had money in the bank. And so they asked me, well, why did you decide to take payments? I said, well, I gave you guys $4,500, and then I thought, I would just make payments on the grant. And he said, well, why would you do that? You don't have the money? And I immediately said, yes, I do, because I could tell that they had to have seen my books. And so we just worked out a deal, and everything was fine. Yeah. But if I would have told them that I didn't have the money,
then you can be lying to a federal agent.
Exactly.
Which means is a form of perjury, even though that you don't have a lawyer present and you don't.
But I was smart enough to figure that out.
Right. I mean, and it gets to the point. See, I have a tendency of thinking that a lot of those organizations are okay at the lower levels. Even I've known some people who worked for the IRS. And they seem to be just normal, doing their job kind of people. But when you get into the upper ends of those organizations, and I think this is a problem that we're seeing in this country all over the place, is the abuse. I hate to be conspiracy theory minded, but what they call the deep state. But you do have people who've been put in a lot of given again the power as the ultimate corrupter, have been given a lot of power and have been elected by no one. They've been put in place because somebody appointed them to this job 25 years ago, and they're still there. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing, and obviously that's happening because our intelligence community, it's happened. We've had a bunch of them that have had to leave and be fired and thrown out because obviously they're abusing their power. But I mean, it gets to the point as an American citizen, you begin to worry if a federal agent comes up to you and says, "How are you today?" I'm not so sure I'd even want to answer without a lawyer present. Because again, if a simple statement is considered perjury, can actually get you in trouble, then, I'm sorry, a detective has to warn you. You have the right to remain silent in anything he's saying. That's almost like, when dealing with anybody from the federal government, they don't seem to have that problem. I don't think that's the concept of liberty that I was talking about earlier, that, the people that originally designed this country actually considered to be of value.
Well, that's because they can't see into the future and see that there'll be cameras everywhere, and there's ways of recording everything. It's a whole different world.
Well, yeah, but again, testimony of witnesses would still work the same way. That's what it would come down to. And even then, an agent can't get you unless they have something that they could prove.
Perjury is a big deal.
It should be, but yet a lot of people, it seems to be extremely casual. You were talking a little about Flynn's situation, and that, again, Flynn's an interesting case because I think that as he had a military career, and apparently people thought highly of him, and he should have known better than some of this. But sometimes I guess thrust into politics is a different set of rules. But I mean, literally, Comey sent over agents to talk to him, and you don't need your lawyer here. We're just going to chat about stuff, and yet use that eventually as a wedge against him because he said something that wasn't true, whether he lied or whether he forgot or whatever. I don't know him personally, but that's the main issue on that. Seems to be he's got a court case right now with a judge that's the sentencing's been put off to next year
until March.
And I read that. I was reading several articles on that situation with Flynn, and that judge. I don't want to be. I'm not a judge. I hate to be critical of one and say I don't know, but I know that the judge mentioned the idea of treason, and I know that treason requires two witnesses committing, and it will verify who've actually part of the crime. I mean, so obviously Flynn did not commit treason.
No, but he was working for another country while he was also on the campaign, and that's one of the issues.
Treason is not another country. No. It is an enemy of this country, and since Turkey is an ally of the United States, you could not commit treason.
But he was a very outspoken judge, because I remember when they were getting ready, before this happened, yesterday they were talking about this judge may unload on him because that's how
it's
how he does
interesting.
business.
But my point is that if you're a judge, aren't you supposed to know? If I know that's not the case, then what the heck are you doing there? Saying something that isn't the case. It isn't treason. I know it's not. He should have known it's not. If I know it's not, I mean, I'm not sitting there in the robes and have the law degree. All I could do is read
But I don't think that he was treated. I mean, some of the things that the judge said, I would have agreed with.
Well, like I said,
he's a 3-star general, and then he acts like a goofball when he's a civilian.
Well, like I said, people. I don't know why. And again, that's why he ended up apparently being fired, because I think sometimes people get caught in things. They'll say something stupid or do something wrong, and then they'll lie to cover for it. And I think Flynn's case, that's probably what it did. Again, it's vanity.
I also wonder if he had some financial issues too, because he was getting paid quite a bit.
Well, again, and that may be part of it too. But this is all, this is all armchair, judging or district attorneying or whatever. I don't. But I do know his situation. I would be extremely surprised under the circumstances that when it's all said and done, he'll probably get a pardon.
From Trump?
From Trump. I'm sure, that.
Yeah. Of course, Trump may have to be pardoned before this is over with. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Well, I'm playing it's just a wait and see now. I'm just a wait and see.
Well, it might just be that. My problem, again, with a lot of the investigations is that I know that they used information to get warrants to investigate the Trump campaign. That whole dossier that came from the I've drawn a blank on the British agents that compiled this model.
Oh yeah.
But he it's not corroborated, and yet they used it for evidence to get a FISA warrant. And if the judge knew where this information had come from, they would have never issued it. So I have problems with this investigation from the beginning, because you obtained warrants to investigate someone based on information that was fraudulent, and that's the problem.
See, I haven't heard anything where that information was fraudulent.
There's no substantiation in it at all. It reads. I've actually read the information that they had that was released from that report, and God, it's going to bug that. Arcus. Arcus is the name of the company. I know the security company that put it together, but there was a particular agent, and you can read it, and I go, this reads like Russian propaganda is what it is, and it's probably exactly what it was. The KGB in its days of yore always put together files and had these, because there's some grammatic errors in it, and some spelling errors in it, and things that look like someone who wrote it was in the first language, the information they were getting, but it's unsubstantiated. Okay, so. When you go before a FISA court, you bring the information to the judges of the FISA court, and you have to say to them, it's ex parte is what it means. I mean, they're going to put forth all the information you need to know to give you this warrant, because there's no opposition.
So you're saying Trump got set up, is what you're saying?
Well, they did. I am absolutely sure that's the case. I think they wanted to. They were concerned about Trump because he was such a wild card. They wanted to have some method to make sure to be able to investigate him, to limit what he could do. Now, they may in their minds think they're great patriots in saving the United States of America. They also, the problem with that is it's also undermining undermining the office of the presidency, and depending on why you're doing it, that is a crime. I mean, you cannot do that. I mean, it goes back and forth on it. But I'm pretty sure that when I look at this whole investigation, there seems to be, again, people are getting taken down for it, but none of them for anything that directly seems to relate. Where's the Russian collusion story?
Well, but I think that's going to come out in the wash. We'll find out what's happening when this is over.
See, the thing is it only existing to the point to limit and try to control the president of the United States or undermine the president to try to get him out of office by people who didn't elect him? I mean, again, you're going against the Electoral College here to try to undermine and get rid of a president. That strikes me as being potentially very dangerous.
Yeah, but I don't think Trump's helping himself.
That has nothing.
Sure, it does because.
But that has nothing to do with why you did the investigation. If these people are investigating because they want to get rid of a president, that's a big deal.
Well, let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Well, I got a minute here, but your guest is cherry picking the facts. You know, the first thing he said was that the FBI had entrapped Flynn, and if you read any of the court transcripts, the judge pointed out to think that Flynn had been entrapped was baloney. And then you're talking about treasonable offenses that took two people and had to prove it. He didn't have to prove it. He just pointed out that it looked to him like it was treasonable, which I totally agree with. I believe that if you collude with another American, well, that might be unethical. If you collude with a foreign power, that's collaboration, and collaboration with an enemy is a treasonable offense. And that's right where Trump is.
But I'm sorry, that isn't true at all. Treason requires to be collaboration with an enemy of the United States. That's all you have to do is read the Constitution to see that.
And Russia is a proven enemy of the United States.
Trump, but Flynn's issue was with Turkey.
You're very calm and subtle in your delivery, but you cherry pick the facts. Thank you very much.
Well.
Hey, I deal with that all the time. So
my point of view on it is that I will yield to someone who is an expert at picking their facts. It isn't the case though, and again, Turkey is the country that this whole thing is involved with Flynn, not Russia. So I mean, and again, Russia is not an enemy of the United States either, according to our. I hate to tell people this.
No, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't agree with that. Being in the NATO forces and seeing what's going on now with Putin.
You, but are we listed? Is Russia listed as we're not at war with Russia? Russia is not.
Well, we were never at war with Russia during the Cold War either.
I'm arguing the difference between the letter of the law rather than the intent of the law here. Technically, Russia would be considered an ally of the United States because we have mutual support treaties with them.
So everybody except maybe Syria and Iran are considered enemies, but everybody else is our friend.
When you get into the idea of the concepts of treason, you'd have to define what an enemy of the United States is, because that's what treason talks about: enemies of this country. I'm not saying Russia's an enemy. Don't get me wrong. China is an enemy. There are a whole bunch of countries, but you were talking about the difference between about the moral and the legal aspects of it. I'm not so sure you can try someone for. Remember, we haven't convicted anyone from treason really since the 1950s in this country, and that was in the case of the Rosenbergs, who sold nuclear secrets to the Russians, who at the time were at a state of no negotiation. They would have been considered an enemy of the United States at the time. We had no treaties with them at all. So I mean, that's treason. Now, to betray your country treasonous? Yes, but it's hard to prove it. That's what treason's supposed to be, because treason is punishable by death.
But it's getting into semantics in a sense.
But see, that's the place where lawyers live. Like I said, the judge should have known better, because he tainted his own case. He could literally get himself recused from his statements. If their attorneys of Flynn, and I don't want to be one defending Flynn, because I think Flynn screwed up on a lot of stuff. But Flynn's attorneys could go after that judge and say, you have prejudiced the pool, and you cannot make a decision on this court case.
Well, we need to take a break, and then we have. It's KBKW's Coffee Talk, and now let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air. Okay, let's go to our next caller. Hi, you're on the air. Hi, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello. I believe the Rosenbergs. I believe the Rosenbergs were convicted of espionage, not treason.
No, it was also because they were executed for it also, because it was espionage and treason.
You can be executed for espionage. I believe that to be an enemy of the United States, there has to be a declared war. And I also believe that the last person to be convicted of treason was back during World War II.
Well, we had depending on, there were people convicted in that. I'm pretty sure that I thought the case was treason, but I'll default on it. I'll go back and research it, because I know both the Rosenbergs were executed for their crimes.
They were for espionage, not treason. And I just wanted to point that out to you.
Okay.
Because
I'll double check the facts.
To be an enemy of the United States, it requires declaration of war,
right?
Which we have not had since World War II.
Okay. Well, I will check it to double check my facts on it. I don't have a problem admitting when I may be wrong, but
and the only document that talks about treason is the Constitution of the United States.
Exactly. So the point is that a decision that's being, but it does have prerequisites on what is it considered to be. People throwing the word treason around is a people like to throw it around, and it is a extremely difficult crime to prove.
Wasn't Aaron Burr accused of treason, but he beat the rap?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I don't know, that was long before my lifetime.
Well, a little before my time too. But I do know that, for example, if you have we had espionage agents that came over from Nazi Germany during the war, and had infiltrated into the United States to commit sedition and destruction and undermine resources in the United States, and they were captured, and they were all convicted, and they were all executed. And they were talking about within a period of about 3 months. I mean, they found them, they caught them, they tried them, they executed them. And
also, if you read the transcripts, the judge gave Flynn every chance to change his plea. He asked if he was coerced, if he was felt like he wasn't given his rights, and he was given every chance to reverse his plea deal.
He was. Well, and I agree with that also. I'm like I said, I'm not here defending Flynn, though. I do think the judge himself would have to be careful in the way that he did things, that he could actually be gone after being prejudicial himself. And it's a dangerous, because it turns into the category of judge shopping, and judge shopping can end up putting you in a position where you'll end up with a much tougher judge afterwards. And
I do remember the Ken Starr investigation where he was put in to investigate Whitewater.
Oh, I agree.
Correct.
Special prosecutors.
The investigation took him to other crimes that were committed, and or possible crimes, and the only thing that they got Clinton on was perjury.
Yeah, the problem with that's my problem with special prosecutors in general. I do not like high inquisitors that have a job to find a crime, whether they're. I thought the general opinion of people was a crime. You investigate a crime, not you have an investigation to find a crime, and that's my problem.
However,
Ken Starr was a joke too.
If an investigator is investigating what could be a crime and then it takes them other places, shouldn't they be allowed to go to those other places, or should they just close in? If
a police officer was investigating it, they could follow an investigation, but they'd have to get different new warrants on the new investigations of what they were doing. When you can get a rubber stamped FISA warrant, and FISA warrants are rubber stamps because they have only been 14 that have been turned down in the last 30 years. That is a big issue. This is, you're looking for a crime, you're going to find it. Ken Starr and Bob Mueller, same person. They are inquisitors whose investigations, I think, are pretty much jokes.
However, Mueller has a lot more convictions. Because he managed to find a lot of people who have had shady business deals and along the lines whatever. If you took a special prosecutor and went through Congress, half of them would be arrested.
You're probably
then
right.
Maybe we should.
No, so we want to give power to one individual who can just choose to do whatever they want to, not without getting a warrant system that has no method of regulating it at all, other than the information put forth by the government, no counter arguments, all ex parte.
your thesis is all these crooks should be able to get away with what they've gotten away with all this time.
If I like people getting punished for their crimes, but I also on the hand, how much. I'm trying to think of the fact that crook is an interesting point of view. Anyone, if you give false testimony to a federal agent, then even accidentally, you can now be guilty of perjury. Is that
actually not perjury, lying to an official? In fact, if you lie to your local police officer, you can be found guilty of that as well.
You can be found of obstructing justice.
Correct.
But Flynn's not up for obstructing justice. Flynn's up for committing perjury.
No, he's up for lying to an FBI agent, not perjury.
Okay, so then what is the penalty in crime for it then if it isn't perjury?
Because perjury is lying in court under oath. Lying to a federal agent is a whole nother crime.
Yeah, but what's the crime?
Lying to a federal agent.
So why exactly do we have so anytime you have a federal agent, you can't lie to them ever under any circumstances?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm sorry.
you have the right to not say anything.
Yeah, if you're actually told.
Because I've gone through several depositions, and you got to tell the truth in a deposition too.
I agree.
And if Flynn did not know that he had the right to remain silent, he should not have been in the position.
Well, I agree. You're making me. I find myself in the position of arguing for someone I think was a doofus. I think he should have known better than what he was doing. I just don't like but I am categorically opposed to special prosecutors because they have far too great of ability to abuse power and have almost no one to watch over them and oversee them to make sure that they're doing anything in the cause of what would be considered justice.
Did you feel that way with Ken Starr?
Yes, of course. Ken Starr's investigation was an absolute farce.
Okay, guys, I got to wrap things up, but thanks for calling, Jim.
Bye.
All righty. It is 8 o'clock, and thanks for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll have you back in next month, and we'll see what else has transpired in that amount.
If you wish to join the quest for knowledge, the battle for truth, please hit the like button, recommend my channel to others, and of course, subscribe. Thank you kindly.